Welcome, Mr. Pradhan, Mr. Kailash Pradhan. I'm so happy to have uh, found you through Anita, who's also joining in. She is from Sikkim and she works with us. And we are always on a lookout for people who've been going against the grain within their own communities and heralding some of these pioneering initiatives to connect people with policies. And when she mentioned about you, we were very ecstatic to read about Manch, read about your previous engagements, and we decided that this would be a very great interaction for our 15th Talk in the Town episode. Talk in the Town is an Nagrik's initiative to create a platform for people like you, pioneers, change makers who have seen that their cities need change and that this change needs to come from people like themselves. And then they have decided to take it upon themselves to start that change. Um, I am very excited to introduce Mr. Kailash Pradhan, who is an architect, an activist, and he's from Sikkim, Gangtok. He studied architecture in Ahmedabad, and after spending time in Zurich, he returned to Sikkim to build his own architectural practice. But over the years, he became increasingly aware of the socio-political issues that were prevalent in his state, which included the lack of transparency in governance and environmental degradation. He was motivated to bring about change, and he contested the municipal elections in Sikkim in 2021 as an independent candidate. Despite not winning, he gained recognition for his zero budget campaign and his various efforts, which included stopping the government from felling almost 4,000 trees in place of putting roads. His efforts and energies have now been channelized into Manch, which is a grassroots movement in Sikkim, which intends to make Sikkim a better place to live in. It aims to bring about a transformation in Sikkim by changing the structure of governance, the model of development, and the mindset of citizens. It is firmly rooted in the conviction, which Nagrik also shares, that each individual is interconnected and interdependent, and that the real change can come only through collective and collaborative efforts. So it's our honor and privilege to have you, Mr. Pradhan. We welcome you. I would just like to say that we have Anita, Nimisha, and Yutika, who are also part of Nagrik, who are with us on this call. And with that, uh, I will start with my first question, which is about if you can briefly talk about yourself and your journey. I have already introduced, but it would be great if we could hear in your own words.
Yeah, I mean, actually, what you said was quite accurate to me. Um, yeah, so at least for me, in me, it was always a underlying. I mean, there wasn't a question about it that I wanted to come back and practice or live in Sikkim. So I guess that was something which my initial days when I was working outside, when I was studying outside, like I was thinking about what it would, I mean, like what the implications were for back home. So when I came here, like I was like one of the first few architects, practicing architects. There were other architects, they were in the government, not really practicing. So architecture was a very new field. Nobody knew what it was really, and to make a living as an architect, to charge money for your services. So that was all like a really uphill. So, but what happened is after a couple of years, there's a few architects, younger architects started coming up. There was Prashant, Naveen, Sanjog. So like by the year 2000, there were like about like 10 of us, and we were all facing the same problem, basically like being able to get recognition for the profession, and even like what you could actually contribute, like what does an architect really do, is it really needed? So we decided to do an exhibition basically like to showcase what architecture was, to bring about awareness. And I think that's where actually this journey, in a way, it started in earnest. That okay, when we said that okay, let's take up a few projects in the city. That time it was a small town, like still like so, and let's try and like see what we can do. So there was this main pedestrian main street in Gangtok, which was vehicular, and it was like very congested, and that was the center of town. So there was a proposal like to pedestrianize that. There was also another proposal like looking way into the future about like public transportation, that ropeways could be a possible solution to that. So a couple of these projects, in a way, we were pushing. Since me also being the senior, I was trying to push, I think, everybody in that direction, that hey, like let's take a look at what's happening in the city, what it means for the future as planning professionals. So we are that part of the community which should be taking care of the future of the city. So it started off like that. So the journey, I mean, I don't know whether you want to talk about my journey. It's like a longish thing, but the long and short of it is that over a period of time, like it was increasingly difficult to engage with the government, and the realization that uh, there are fundamental kind of structural like lacunas, within the system, which is not allowing like good decision making to happen, like either in the city, either at the state level in planning, or the. And one of the main reasons was there wasn't any earnest long-term thinking, like within governance. So it used to be there, it slowly started petering out, and now it's very like 5 year kind of a based decision making. So and so do you want me to talk about like the elections, like how we got? So
that would be wonderful if you could hear about because it was a zero budget campaign. It was completely, as a people's
yeah.
movement.
So just leading up to that a little bit. So staying with the architects of Sikkim. So we did every 10 years. So it ended up we did a event where we did exhibitions and workshops. So the first one was like a few of us. We did a few workshops on. Even at that time, we recognized self-governance, like urban governance is one of the issues. So we had done a workshop on that. That was in 2000, the year 2000, 2001. And then 2011, again, we did another. That time, these JNN, URM projects were coming up all over the place, And there was a lot of like capacity. We didn't know what was happening. So architects said, okay, let's showcase all these projects, and let's kind of like see, let's put it out to the public and get the public feedback on those projects. So we went with that intention, and it was, I mean, yeah, it was a good engagement, with the public, and even for the architects, for us to kind of like get together. And so that was 2011. And in 2021, we did also another of these events, and over there we did one workshop. It was called like Bato Khoju, like let's find a way forward, like since. And so even in the workshop, it's like a hunch for me, which I always had, that it's hard to accept. But in the workshop, it also came out that in the final analysis, if we have to be honest with ourselves, the government is also the problem. Like the government itself has become an obstacle, like in all like moving forward. So, and the more you think about it, the more true it is. And like from a corruption angle, okay, it's like it's not in a good place. From a capacity point of view, like the people because there's so much of like centralization of power politically, the bureaucrats nowadays, like they are more or less toothless. They don't take any initiative. As a result, they kind of like lost confidence. They've lost their capacity. So they also, we don't have the capacity for critical thinking and like long-term kind of planning. So that's another issue with the government. And another structural flaw within the government is also like these central schemes, especially like for us, we became very acutely aware of planning. So you have this GNN URM or Amrut scheme or something, like, and then you have these, we try to like get into those schemes, like, and we knew we didn't have the prerequisites. We got together, we found out like other planning consultancies. We kind of hooked up with them to kind of like to be able to do these plans, because we know that the plans are made like like the structural fraud I'm talking about. Like these consultants come, like these big multinational consultancy firms. So they come here, they spend some time. Gangtok is very peculiar in terms of its topography. It's like a high seismic zone. It's high rainfall. It's a very fragile geology, and the topography is like it's like no other place in the world. I feel like for a city, like it's not just like a hilly, sloping town. It's like very steep, like, and plus it's with the rainfall, high rainfall, with the weak geology, and with the seismic kind of prone to earthquake. So it makes it difficult to get your head around like the physical context. So, and a lot of the times the consultants, by the time they kind of like get familiar with the terrain, it's the time is up and they have to leave, and they put together something. So these plans kind of like getting made, and like for example, like the comprehensive development plan and the city mobility plan, that was back in, I think, 1990s or yeah, mid 2000s. So that was made just like in a hurry, so that the government could get access to the funds which was accessible through JNNURM. So the main intention wasn't actually to plan the city and to do a rigorous job of it. It was just like, okay, we need to have a plan so that we can access to those funds. So a lot of the decisions, like in the government, it gets made like that. So over time, we've kind of, and as architects, sometimes we are naive, and civil society, okay, we have workshops, we put up like recommendations to the government, and the government like, okay, they're very gracious, they accept it, okay, we'll look into it, and blah blah. So, but it happens all the time, and nothing happens, and slowly, like the realization is that and it's not going to happen, like the way things are at the moment, and the way that the government, the way that the political culture, like it plays out into governance. So like decisions are made for vested interests, and it's like with true intentions, looking at a long term, doesn't get made, and that's what we really need. And nobody in the government seems to be seeing it, like, and we feel that if the government is not seeing it, then we're in deep shit, basically. Like, so okay, then let's do something about it. So when some of my friends, they approached, we keep talking about it, like, the other thing is like, we all know what's wrong, and a lot of us have ideas, okay, this is what we do, but then it just like boils down to like like talking like over a coffee, like over a drink, and then sometimes you just become cynical, and you just like critical all the time. So it's not good for your health also. So let's do something about it. So, and then so we started like talking, what could we do? So when the 21 elections came, the government, they touted it as partyless, like, it's going to be like free of party politics. So some of my friends, they said that, okay, they persuaded me that this is a good chance. So, and whatever we've talking about, like, let's it's something that we can get a foot into, like into the door, and maybe get a seat at the decision making table. So, and that's all we need, like, to be somewhere in the decision making like process. So, and at least where we can also put a point of view across. And so, but the other thing is also, for us, we saw that as an opportunity also to make a commentary on the political culture, which is like very much like cash based. Like everything is about like people investing in you, and whether it's in cash or in kind, like people will help you. Like a lot of like the youth will come, and you have to give them a meal a day, and then they'll work for you, and they'll be rallying around you. But then if you do win, then they become your, I mean, you have to kind of appease them also, like, so that's so those are the kind of the traps and the pitfalls that we knew. And then so we felt that, okay, let's, if we can pull off very very, I mean, to correct you, it wasn't a zero budget campaign. We had money, but we had very little money, and we got a lot of volunteers, we got a lot of services in kind, and the money that we did get, it was like small units, and it was from people who didn't want anything in return. They just liked the idea that we were going all out for this, and they wanted to help in some way. So let's make this kind of campaign, which the mantra is really like not winning at any cost. Like we will not be talking anything about like anything ethnically or religious. We will not kind of like be backbiting anyone. So it's like just to have a cleaner, more decent politics, which like especially the youth, they can kind of identify with, they feel comfortable with. And it's like to clean up the image of politics also in a way. So that was so the idea was never to win, like win in the terms of like electorally, but or win was something else. Like if we can try and change political culture a little bit, even a little bit, so then that's what we were trying to achieve through this campaign. And we did realize that a campaign is also an election is a, besides being other things, it's also a platform. It's a chance where you can get people are listening, and people are listening to other people, and they're comparing what this guy is saying to the other guy. So and the media is kind of like wanting to talk to you and all that. So you get a chance to like speak about stuff. So and in that way you're able to maybe shift like consciousness or like mindsets a little bit, even like so that was, I mean, so now finally we are realizing, and going like a long way, all that, that somehow change will happen also from the people. I think you were mentioning it earlier, like, oh, you can't like induce a top down kind of a change, like the change also has to come from changing mindsets, and just general consciousness. So basically then that puts us in a long term kind of a game. So that's where Munch, I think that we kind of identify that it's a hard, like it's a difficult job. Like we know that okay, it's not something that we can expect results, but also something that we don't even have a choice. Like I mean, can we just, are we okay with not even trying, okay, even if it's difficult? So I think that's the that's behind Munch. And mainly it's also the idea that whatever is the obstacle, like you want to get to good governance, you want to get to a community which is resilient and a healthy, trusting community. But to get there, you have to, there are some big roadblocks along the way. Like for example, corruption is definitely one of them. The other one is like, oh, that's also part of that mindset change that we're talking about. So then the realization that the obstacle is the way, like in the sense, like unless you clear that, you're not going to go ahead. So like we can't, like sometimes elections become about deadlines, but then I think Munch is more like a movement kind of a scene that let's try and address these issues. Okay, if we need to do mindset change, okay, then let's try and do that. And how do we do that? So, and it's not easy, and for of us, all of us, a lot of us, we're doing it as a part-time. So it's kind of like you're biting off a lot more than you can chew, but then it feels good that you feel somehow that you are on the right path, that your life also in a way it has meaning. So there are these lot of other intangibles. I don't know, Tarun, I just went on a ramble, but I don't know where.
No, I'm glad that you did, because it gave us a lot to chew on in the long term as well as immediately as well. And I think you brought about a lot of things that have gone on in the past. We haven't had on our platform uh, somebody who has been a person who has contested local elections. And in India also, like there are a lot of grassroots people who've been working, identifying very local issues and contesting elections. So I thought it might be very insightful for our audience to hear what does an election campaign for a person who's running out of his own behest, out of the concern for his city. Uh, and as you said that, and I think just before this election happened, the amendment came in where this political party line was kind of removed, that people who have to be independent have to contest. But that link really doesn't break, as we know in most states that there is that linkage where political parties who have subnational national agendas also pull in their weight behind. So do you want to share a little bit about how does a person who's running for the state, who's running for the city, his campaign looks a little different than people who are maybe representing partly local, but partly also some kind of vested interest? Like, what are some of those issues that you bring which resonate with more people? Because, it's something that like the kind of things that you spoke about right now, if we have all the people who have been on Tint on our podcast before, they will immediately agree with you on so many of those things. So there's definitely a constituency of people who kind of agree with this kind of model of change.
Mm.
Just few
So
insights.
yeah, okay. So there are a couple of things over here. I'll just try and talk around that area. So one was the trying to make the best use of social media, and internet and digital technology. So that, because we have friends, me being an architect and me having a lot of like designer friends and architects. So there is a comfort in graphics and like a little bit of that content creation. So we got a lot of these people on board, and on social media, like on internet, so it got a lot of like traction because it was like amongst the youth, like something that was different, something that was also a little bit exciting, something which was they could identify with. And one of the things about our campaign was we are not going out to meet people and to give them bhashan about what you're going to do and this and that. At least for us, it's always been like to listen first and to ask people like what their issues are, what if they have any ideas about like solutions, and also to do that in a little bit, what do you say, like a scientific way. So our campaign, like we didn't go out and give speeches, so but we had a couple of these events in very public areas where we took a lot of effort to invite people in on that day, and we made it like kind of a mela kind of a thing, like you can visit this tea, there's a little bit of tea happening, and there's some young boys singing like music, local music. They were like rap boys, and we also had a survey, but which was done in a way which was like we give everybody like a handful of ribbons, and then there were these like the issues that the municipal corporations is mandated to do, like hygiene, or whether it's like drinking water, open spaces or planning. So, and what was it in that we had for two different areas. I stood from two constituencies, so for two different areas, two different colored ribbons, and asking them like what pinches them the most, so we could get like one is to know the problems. Okay, we know that these are the problems. One is to know the priority of the problems, so especially when you have limited resources, then what is immediately like kind of required, or what is urgent. So we had those kind of events. So that's the campaign was a little bit like that. A lot of it was also, in a way, one of the best things about the campaign was a lot of people got to know each other. It was a convergence in a way, like this particular campaign converged. There were friends who were architects, there were friends who were designers, there were friends who were like from the education field, like there were other friends who were like movie makers, they were like normal people, there were people from the government. So in a way, it was the beginning of creating an ecosystem. Actually, it was there from the beginning, but then this one, it really kind of like to galvanize that, and many good things came out of that as a result. But the campaign itself, it was a feel good happy thing, like, and we were like we knew the odds were against us because we were running from an, I mean, like though we didn't do an ethnically kind of a led campaign, but that the areas that I stood from, the MG Marg, the two main MG Marg and the lower MG Marg, that's the business, the center of town, and which is like dominantly the business community, which is a lot of like from the Marwari community and from the BRE community. So they had their own constitution, and they are a minority everywhere in the state. This is the only place they have some majority. So they would like to elect somebody from their own community. So ethically, so I was always like going against the current, but that was also a kind of a high profile kind of, sorry, I'm going out of the high profile area. So we wanted to make a statement, so we want to get heard. So yeah, so we lost pretty badly. Like we I mean, we got very few votes. So what did it look like? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So maybe now we can talk a little bit about the evolution from, like, this must have been a huge learning and also a way through which you were able to test some of your hypothesis in terms of what people want. You ground truth them directly with some of the people based on the priorities. So
Mm.
maybe if you want to talk a little bit about, you as architect, so you would have insights into the disconnect between what people want and the planning processes that Sikkim as a state or Gangtok as a city are undertaking. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about what Munch is doing now based on the learnings, which in a way try to address this disconnect that is
Yeah,
there between what the priorities are that people have and the actual planning processes that go behind it. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
an
Actually,
architect, but also as something that a layperson would also kind of relate with, because this is a story of a lot of our cities right now.
yeah. So regarding this, no, like I don't know where you must have heard of this Maslow's hierarchy, So and somewhere in my mind, I keep coming back to that, and in Munch, indirectly, directly. So there is a particular demographic which resonates very strongly with what we are saying, what we are doing, what we're thinking, and they were so excited, so happy. And when we got that feedback, we were like in an echo chamber. We thought that wow, like we really like hit it big. Because but what we realized is like within the whole like range of society, it's a particular kind of a strata where we reached very kind of like wide, like even like abroad, like like expats and all that. So they were like, okay, I wish I was a voter from there, I would have flown in and come and blah blah blah. So it had very deep kind of a connection with a lot of people. But for a lot of people, sometimes they want to be on the side, like the government is seen as the provider, like in terms of like your basic roti kapda makan kind of a thing. So they don't want to be on the wrong side, and the government is also in a way quite vindictive. Like they will keep their grudges, and they will kind of like see, okay, whether this guy was supporting us or not. And so the benefits are based on your political affiliation. So the people, like in a way, for them to go against the tide, I mean to go against like the pattern, and to vote for something very different, the other alternative has to be seen almost as strong enough to form the government. Like they want to be on the winning side, like at least give an appearance. So this, what you hear this thing called wave like all the time, like in politics. So what is this wave? So in a way, you are seen as a viable alternative, like that these guys good, they can do it, and they have the resources, they have the manpower to do it and all that. So and sometimes that's the difficult part, like you're saying that how is what the experiences then translating into months. So what we are thinking now, that this our strategy is like, let's not try and change the perception or the mindset of the whole public first. Let's try and talk to the people who are most that have the most affinity with what we are doing and what we are saying. So that's the reason that we thought that youth, educated youth, the urban population, so they understand complexities a little bit more. They kind of a little bit less, what do you say, like dependent, or they could be less dependent on the government. So therefore they have more like autonomy. So they could vote in the other direction. So really, we're still like grappling with it. Like Tarun, we don't have an answer. Like what is it that we learned, and what we are trying to do now. Like I still feel like there isn't any magic formula. Sometimes you don't want to be populist also, but without being populist, you're not able to get your message through. And like, so there is this dilemma all the time. And a lot of people say that, no, no, let's come to power in any way possible, and then once we're in power, we can make the changes. But then, do the means justify the ends? Like, and are you setting in a precedent for like political culture, like for the future, like if you do that? So this it's a completely like, for me, like this political arena is a very what do you say, like it's, yeah, it's important, it includes everything, but it's also, and plus you have the other players who are in the picture, they're doing it in their own way. So navigating this whole like landscape in a way is what we are trying to do, grappling with. It's difficult, but it's like fun, and it also seems like something that yeah, like I was saying, something like worthwhile doing, like worthwhile, like having sleepless nights over, like, okay, if you can try and figure this out, like maybe it's something
But
we'll try.
but have you like in a far-fetched conception or in some sort of imagination, have you thought of the pathway that will connect uh, the way you're trying to connect with the constituency that already listens to you to a more mainstream, um larger public that is there, which in an
Yeah,
election
yeah.
which makes or breaks. But do you see a bridge somewhere? Because that is something that I think
Yeah, yeah. So
the
I know it's a difficult one, like, because like what you're asking is like, okay, there are people who already like resonate with you, fine, but then the next step, like, how do you connect with bigger population? And it might have to be more than like a two-step thing. It might have to be a couple of steps. Okay, then so these guys, they go out to their family, friends. Maybe we can get into the like the teacher circle. Maybe so. I mean, yeah. So when you think of it, when you talk about like that, sometimes it seems like, oh, it's a long-term kind of a, like a slow train. But let me think about this question. Okay, so the way that you would connect with the larger yeah population, internet was one of the ways. Having attractive content was always there, and actually sometimes taking a stance on controversial issues, like for us, like what sets us apart from other political outfits is, like, for example, we don't have a vote bank, and we don't to know what is vote bank politics, like, so we don't want to go anywhere near there. So Sikkim became part of India quite late. So there are like internal like political protections. There are three main ethnic groups. They have like it's kind of a little bit of a complex situation, and the politicians are always doing a tightrope walk and trying to appease like one or the other, not to offend one or the other, like, and we as kind of not wanting to win at any cost, so we can like shoot straight, and we can say things like, for example, like Sikkim doesn't pay income tax, okay, and recently we had there's a kind of a internal like a mess which is happening, because they are the old settlers, the old Bihari and the Marwari communities who've been there from a long time, generations. They're saying that, why should we not be exempt? But then they don't come under the Sikkim subject kind of a thing, because they were always like Indian subjects, so from before. So now they kind of like got inculcated into this other thing, and like, so it's almost like you want to become Sikkimese because you don't have to pay tax, and so the other it's not fair. So we were taking a stand like, actually we should pay tax. Why are we not paying tax? Like, everybody should pay tax, and then we can also have a stronger stake in like governance, and like our voices will be stronger, and it'll also bring about a sense of ownership. So we've taken this stand. It's a radical stand. Nobody like it's like political suicide, but for us we feel fine to do it, because we are in a way, so I don't know whether this will win us the elections or not win us the elections, but if we do this consistently over a period of time, I think people will see that, okay, in the end, like, these guys are the guys who are talking sense, and it might be pinching us in the short term, but like these are the guys who are going to like take us, like, who are the guys who should captain us for the like for a long journey, like. So we feel like somehow or the other capturing people's trust, because at the moment, like, the politicians are just, it's so shameless, like they're just distributing like money in envelopes, like, and cars, and like that kind of stuff. So if people like, so that's where that Maslow thing comes in. Okay, when people are like making a hard time making their ends meet, for them they'll take anything. They'll take a pressure cooker, they'll take a bag of rice, they'll take a car, they'll take whatever, like, and they're not going to kind of say no to that. So but what we are offering is something else, which is like teaching a man to fish rather than giving fish, that kind of an analogy, so that doesn't have that populist kind of an appeal, and therefore I think it might require from Munch like a consistent stand on this for a long time, for things to change around Manch. If Manch can kind of like stay steady, and like the weather changes around Manch, so maybe the weather will change to a point where the conditions are right for a change in like political culture. So a lot of this, Tarun, like by talking to me, you can make out that we don't have a clear plan. We know that something has to get done. So, and we know that not trying is not an option. So we are putting our best of our best. Let's do this. This is not working. Now we are actually at the present stage. We are a little bit of a catch-22. We don't know what to do with the next elections. We are not ready for it yet. At the same time, if we don't participate in it, like we also what does the perception look like? Are we just like talking? Are we just like intellectual, like academia, like we're curious? So we need to kind of like engage with the public also, but at the same time, the dangers are there. So it feels good like to be in this terrain, but by no means are we like really sorted, and we have it's like building the vehicle as we go, like kind of a thing happening.
No, thank you so much. I think I'm glad that you pondered over it and thought about this question, even though maybe it came out as a little provocative, because I think you did give an answer about what positive politics could mean. And within the framework of your Maslow's hierarchy, I think so far the trust that you were talking about that the political class tries to build with people, it's still at the bottom of the pyramid, where it still depends a lot on things like pressure cookers and uh, very animate things. But to
Mm.
get to the next stage, I think that's what you're trying to do, is how that trust can be built on shooting straight, by making statements which are true in the long run.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a fight worth fighting for. And it's okay if you don't have a plan or it's going as it is going. But sometimes I think not having a plan is a plan in itself. And we hope that it works out. And so I also wanted to, I think in the last conversation we had, you touched upon this idea of community-owned public goods. And
Mm.
I found it to be a really strong and powerful idea. Uh,
Mm.
I think in the current realm of things, maybe not very easily imaginable kind of an
Mm.
idea, but
Mm.
definitely something that is worth pursuing, especially for our smaller cities, which have been getting bombarded with the kind of infrastructure and assets without them even knowing that what is coming their way. So
Yeah.
if talk a little bit about that idea, and then
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Firstly, like Tarun, like I went through a little bit of some of your podcasts, and like some things like it really caught my attention, which was that the smaller cities are actually the places where the future of the country, or the future of even like globally, like can be shaped in these cities, because these cities are in the state of becoming, like, so it has like all the potential to go in any direction. And maybe if we can get our act right, so we can really, because the big cities are, the technology is going to come from there, but the big cities can't like really reinvent themselves in a radical way. So smaller cities can become that. So that resonated so much with me, because I feel that Gangtok has all the ingredients to be like like a wonderful place to live, and to work in, like just, and it can just be we have everything. We have all the, we have good water, we have like good climate, we have, I think we still have like good compassionate people, like we have endowed with like biodiversity. So so lots of stuff going our way. And now that the city is here, I mean, like, I guess for a city to form, also to have that congestion, not congestion, to have that density, to have that urbanity, which has happened here, and also that magic of urbanism is already there. Now we need to kind of like get or like the architects and the planners, and like it's there, the transport people, like, so if we can get that sorted out, like, then, like, this whole transformation can happen. So the thing is also talking about like ownership, about like public assets, is also linked to fundamentally to this idea about like evolution, like, and we call it development, but for me, like, somehow evolution, um as when you look at like places like Sikkim, like, we haven't had much, like if you go to like even the medium cities in like the rest of the country, or like the big cities, like, this there is this lots of stuff happening, lots of stuff getting built, like, metros happening, there's software industries, there's lots of opportunities, like, to capacity build, to grow, like, to build a technical capacity, confidence, like, all that stuff. And those opportunities are far and few, like in places like Northeast, the Himalayas, like these regions, because logistically, like, we are not well connected and all that. So these few projects which naturally, like, Sikkim is endowed with, like, the potential for generating hydropower, and, like, say, our terrain, it demands like public, like ropeway as a possible, like, transportation system, so these are the areas that we as a population, we have to grow into, like, because this is the technology that what we really need. I mean, that's going to, like, help us. And one way, we are on one side, we are saying that we don't have we have unemployment problem, and we don't have opportunities, and we don't have this, and over here, these are the opportunities which are staring. These are the vacuums that are right there in front of you. So go and fill up those vacuums. So in order to do that, what does it take? Okay, like, we're not in a hurry. Like, okay, let's start training the people. Let's start, like, getting what are the, for the hydropower projects, if you need, like, turbine engineering, or whether it's tunneling technology, or like, start training people, let's start sending. So somehow or the other, you are able to kind of, like, owning is definitely good, because you will get maximum kind of benefit from that, and you can do it the way that you want, which is also environmentally friendly, like in a small sustainable way, and not sometimes these big companies, they do things in a very extractive way, like it's hardcore kind of corporate kind of business. So it's like environment, like, local kind of people's concerns go out of the window, and they just want to kind of, like, build a wall around that place and just extract. So that's been, like, terrible, like, for us. So we were thinking that if we can do things ourselves, we can do it in the way that we know is right for this place, so in order to do that, we need to own, like, the assets. So, and why should we give away the assets? Like, we are squandering so much of, like, our environment, like, and so much of our natural beauty and all that. So then let that be worth it, so for that to be worth it, it can't just be like in the case of, like, hydropower projects, like a 12% of the generated electricity, or in terms of, like, say, like a ropeway which is going to come up here, just like riding the ropeway and being convenient. It should also help us in terms of our employment, in terms of our capacity building, in terms of our technological kind of competence and confidence, so that we are able to solve our own problems in the future, like, so that's the whole idea of sustainability for me. Like, unless we own our problems, and unless we solve our problems, because we don't really move forward, because the problems are the opportunities for you to grow and evolve, so and if you hand over these to somebody else, that guy grows and evolves, and his capacity builds, and he does, like, bigger things in life somewhere, like, and we just, like, stay on the side, and we're just like bystanders in the development process. So the ropeway, the same thing, like, something like a ropeway is coming in Gangtok. It's a huge thing for us, like, but at the same time, it's not just like a public convenience. It's also, I was trying to tell the local planners that it's the engine for, like, growth. Like, it's your tool for planning. Because in the hills, what happens is, like, because we are challenged, like, in terms of communication, we can't go anywhere. So wherever there's a road, the settlement starts on both sides of the road, which means that whenever there is communication, like, if you can take a ropeway to a nice spot, and the ropeway is robust enough to carry, like, construction material, and like, all that stuff, you can have a settlement which starts off in that place. There's no road over there, but a ropeway can open that access to that area, and that allows you, it gives you flexibility for the city to grow wherever you want. At the moment, we are, like, constrained by this road, because the road in the hills, like, if you want to go, like, from here to here, you need to zigzag all the way, like, up. But in a ropeway, you can just, like, it just cuts the distances like anything, and it's also environmentally, like, friendly, like, in terms of, like, okay, there's no pollution, it touches the ground very lightly, it doesn't interfere with watershed drainage. So from many angles, okay, there are safety concerns, there are, like, privacy concerns when you can look down into people's, like, properties and all that. But besides that, it seems to be a very good, like, kind of possible thing. So okay, like, if we are doing it, okay, let's do it. When the question is, who's going to own it? Okay, the government, they make a mess of anything. They can't even run a proper canteen, so the government is not an option. Then after that, then people start talking about PPP mode, and my heart sinks every time I hear that PPP mode. Like, okay, it's like more like these Danda guys will come in and they want to extract, and they do it in a way which is like this very project mode. They're not looking at the tentacles of like a project. Things are related to everything else. So that's our main mantra. I think that also you realize, you said in the beginning, that things are interconnected, so if you can interconnect the possibilities that public transportation has on planning, on capacity building, and also on like ownership like model. Like, so that was the little bit radical idea in this ropeway project. The ropeway by itself is very feasible, but the who's going to own it? So instead of like a big multinational coming and owning it, or like a big business house like Reliance or Adani, or like Tata Birla coming and owning it, because then for me it doesn't, it's not evolution. Like for us, we are bypassing something. Okay, we just want to like ride. We just like sponging up somebody else's kind of like artwork. We are not interested in finding out like how a ropeway works, and don't we want to do it ourselves? Or isn't that where employment is? Isn't that where kind of young people can kind of getting engaged? So let's, so how can we own it? So let's break up. So the whole idea was like, let's break up the project into different components. So in a ropeway project, what do you need? Like, the main component is going to be all this electromagnetic kind of the big things which spin around, the cables, and the hardcore stuff. Okay, so that for that we need technical expertise, like we need a reputed company. But for the rest of the stuff, we need land, we need these towers, which we can make ourselves. We need electricity, which we produce. We need some management, which we have the manpower. We need some plannings, which we can do, partly do ourselves. So if you can break it up into different kind of components, and so suppose I have land, which is a good place to have a ropeway station, and so this initiative comes to me and says that, oh, this is the project that we have, this is a business plan, and we don't have the money now, but you can come on board as a shareholder, and your value of your land is this much, the value of the project is this much, your shareholding will be this much, and if you go with a credible kind of project and with credible people, I will tell you that people in Sikkim, they want to invest in something locally. Like they go and buy flats in Siliguri and in other cities, because if they wanted, they could kind of do that. So slowly, like the local people have a stake in, like, so same way the power department or whoever generating the hydropower locally, they can become a partner. And the contractors, like over here, they have a lot of like know-how, and they have a lot of like kind of resources at their command, so they can build things cheap. So we can give them a good deal. Okay, they build like a ropeway station, we can quantify it, and they get a kind of a dividend in the company. And so that way you get, it forces you to firstly to work together and to cooperate together. Okay, like, so which is what we really need is this kind of a trust building where we can cooperate. It's not like a company which has a kind of a very top down approach, which is doing everything, but here it's more like a bottom up thing, or like it's more like an egalitarian way of like doing things. And going in the future, we feel that this is the way forward. Like, for a place like a small place like Sikkim, it is very community kind of based place. It's not very big. And if we do this, it will be sustainable in the long run. And it's more like the local people, like you owning your problems and solving your own problems, and like or organizing yourself. So it's also kind of an opportunity to do that. Okay, so this is the idea about like a community owned kind of expertise. I don't know whether I was very clear about it, but yeah, that was the idea about it.
I think that's, as you said at that time, it's a radical idea, but I think it's radical ideas that can change the narrative. And it definitely sounds like a very sustainable model of creating that trust that people have in their communities. As
Yeah, yeah.
I've
So,
dipped my
Arun, can I do an aside over here? Like, one of the things that you use the word trust. That's why I just wanted to talk about that. So, even in a campaign, like that was one of the main things that we found out, and that's what we are trying to kind of zero on. And is like, how do you win people's trust? Like, and the only way to do that is to be true, to be honest, to be authentic, to talk sense, and to listen to people, like, and to acknowledge if you're wrong, and like to engage, like, with people. So, and for me, that's the other topic. I don't know whether it's on your list or not, but it's a big one for us, for me, like for the people I work with, and for the campaign also, is consultation, public consultation. So public consultation is not only a way of knowing, like, what are the problems that people face and where the shoe pinches really, but it is also a way of the people feeling acknowledged, and therefore that's the first step in, like, building a sense of, like, ownership. We keep talking about sense of ownership. I've been in many NGOs, and okay, what do we need to build awareness, sense of ownership, this is this. How do you build sense of ownership? Like, so it is, maybe there is, we can't, like, just say that we need to build sense of ownership and not, but we are always in the same place. So sense of ownership comes from, I think, being, like, trust is a big part of it. I'm doing something over there. I come to your ilaka, and I said, okay, this is what we are planning, and I really want to, like, okay, I hear everybody's thing, and we explain to them why somebody's point is valid, is not valid. The valid points, we take it, we incorporate it, we again, we revise the plans, we bring it to them through a couple of points. If they see that you are earnest, you are listening to them, and I assure you, from the third or fourth time, they'll say that, no, 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 now whatever you do is fine. I'm fine. Like, like, you've already kind of, like, I've seen you, I trust you, I've seen your capability, I know what you're thinking. It's fine. Like, don't have to come to me even. So we want to reach that point where people, like, why you, and it's a fundamental thing that I think we are missing in today's, like, this urban, like, scenario, whatever it is. This, nobody trusts, like, the government. The government wants to come and do something. Oh, who is the nexus word? What's behind? Who's the vested interest? Blah blah. So what can you do? Like, and for me, that's a terrible, like, place to be. So I feel that somehow or the other, we need to transition to the next phase, and trust is the secret, I think, to this to the next phase. That's what I feel. Sorry, I just took you.
No, no, I think that definitely is I think the anchor that is missing. And I think people become decision takers at after a point they realize that just because there is no option that exists, we'll just go with the option that is coming. And it might just come across as a coffee table talk later that they're not very happy with the status quo. But uh, the kind of ideas that you're bringing forth are the kinds that may offer them that choice in future. And I've always said that devil is in procurement details. And I think the idea that you just talked about of community-owned public assets, I think that's probably where the key to this whole thing, somewhere it lies there, given how the procurement norms at the national level, at the state level, make these projects so capital intensive and so far away from the reach of common people. So I think that is
I'm
something.
just checking location. Okay, my battery's about to die. So, sorry. Yeah, please carry on.
I'm saying that that is something from me to you to think about. That procurement norms are probably one of the ways, or one of the areas of addressing, especially in fragile states in places like ours, where because of very generic procurement norms, local issues, local aspirations, local agencies do not become part of these.
Yeah.
So,
and
uh,
and we, and therefore we miss out on, like, the learning opportunities. That's for me. Okay, one is, like, the economic aspect of it, and for me is more that the learning opportunities get lost, and those are very few for us, so it's precious for us. So that is
So, even though I see that we are almost on the 1 hour time, but if you have few minutes, I wanted to ask you just two very quick questions. Is that okay, or are you pressed for
yeah,
time?
sure. No, no, absolutely, I have as long as you want. Yeah. So if you have a
Yeah.
time, I can help from your side.
So one thing that I wanted to ask you was about you know some of the opportunities that you see and some of the challenges that you have faced in the past while you move forward with Munch. Maybe more about the opportunities, because I think challenges we kind of discussed about.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
then that can lead on to your message to other organizations, other individuals who are trying to
Okay.
do something similar.
So, okay, I'll talk a little bit about Munch, but before I get into that, the real opportunities, also there was something like with the public consultation, I wanted to add that I think the future is going to be more and more important, especially like if we are living in democracies, that collective decision making, like how are decisions made collectively. And I've had the good fortune of working with a few groups where it's not because okay, if you sit in a room and you just okay like let's discuss and all that, it's always like there's these social cultural aspects, the male eldest male like as like a dominant voice, and the rest they don't get to talk. So how does everybody's voice get heard? How does kind of like you come to a coherent kind of a decision based on the the quality of the inputs that you're getting, and like so that is there is in a way I won't say a science, but there is like techniques for that, and there are people who like hone those techniques and are good at it, like, and it's something that we can access. Like we don't have, if we want to have decision making, like the government, they shy away from good decision making, I mean like collective decision making, because they don't want to have public meetings because they can't handle it, but you can always outsource it to somebody who will do it for you, and you will get kind of so then not to shy away from public consultation as well. So regarding like the opportunities that we see, like especially like it is like politically, like engaging in the political kind of realm, in a way you get to, I won't say you're playing God, but you can analyze what's happening all around, like almost like all over the world. Okay, this is what's happening, and this is working, and this is not working, or like this will work better, and this is taking us in the wrong way. So it gives you the possibility to think big, and especially for younger people, like nowadays you're connected by the net. You know what's happening in all over the world, like so and it's not that okay just because we live here we have to kind of like restrict ourselves like to anything, like everything is open, like so that way. Yeah, so this political realm gives you that. So and within that, like for us, for example, like we've like one is we found out like a couple of things, like the challenges in the political sphere, or the, let's say, the lacunas is this cult leadership culture, at the moment, like it's there in the national stage, it's here. It's like you are not electing a public representative, you're electing some kind of a demigod, like so we see that as a problem. And just the whole phenomena of like a cut like figure and centralized power and centralized, so that kind of like creates all kinds of other issues, like corruption becomes much easier, that's and there's no transparency, um and good ideas like they don't kind of like seem to surface, and people's like initiative and capacity, and like those things get lost. So I think I'm rambling a little bit, but there were two things, like, so one is this phenomena of like cult leadership. So how do we counter that with more like a collective leadership model? So the okay, what is the counter to that? Collective leadership. So but what are the processes, what are the kind of intricacies within like collective decision making, or collective leadership, so that's what I was saying, like there is that opportunity there to really hone your skills and your methodology to kind of like to make collective decisions, so that itself is an opportunity. The other one is about like we talked about it earlier. We know that fundamentally, like the money in electoral politics during elections is in a way the beginning of like a lot of the corrosion which happens later on. So how does one fight elections effectively with a very low budget, so like so that's also like it's a challenge, but at the same time it's a huge opportunity, especially with internet, with digital media, with trying to be effective at communicating I think this guy Prashant Kishore is doing something in Bihar at the moment. Like, he's thought about an idea and he's kind of putting it in practice. But and he keeps talking about it like, if you see people like spending a lot of money, you have to ask that where's that money coming from. These are like fundamental questions like the Indian electorate doesn't even like think about. So there is a chance to change political culture, I think, at this stage, and that's the biggest opportunity. And how can you do that through your own, through prototyping some models and putting it into place, and trying to kind of like see whether you can upscale that or whether you can improve on that. So the opportunities are really real. I mean, and if it's effective, it'll really have good positive impacts, long-term impacts, I feel. I guess,
Thanks.
yeah.
This definitely covers what I was looking for. And do you want to share something, share a message for organizations or individuals who are starting out or who want to maybe um, your previous answer kind of covered that, but if you have something that is more on the lines of, say, do's and don'ts, more practical
Actually,
tips.
yeah, thanks for the opportunity. But to tell you the truth, we are struggling, like for us, like we are breaking our heads, like what will work, what will not work. So I can't say that we are a successful model as yet. We are in like, but one of the things what I feel good about it is through this, just the meeting of like-minded people. Like sometimes, there was me alone in my own space and in my own room, and I'm thinking this, getting frustrated, this, that. The moment you meet other people who are thinking the same way, and no, we got to do something, let's take care, it's liberating, it's empowering. It kind of like suddenly your capacity is like double. Like, okay, what you were weak at, somebody is strong at. What somebody's like weak at, you are strong with. So somehow or the other, you are able to like rally. And I don't know where this all is going to like end and where it's going to go, but it just feels like to be in a good place from where I was before. So now, like, okay, we are together. We have something called like Manch. Okay, we are trying to do something. We are concerned. Okay, we are feeling that, okay, we are drifting. We are making plans. So anyway, so we are grappling with the situation. It feels somehow like, I just feel like if there's any message, is like, it's not like there's no race, there's no like, in a way, there's no like one lagging behind, or we have to like be desperate, or like be get too what do you say, like get under pressure and make all kinds of decisions like which are not like going which you're not sure about. So find the path, like, and which sometimes something Krishnamurti said when I was young, it really like, sometimes because your destination is not a fixed destination, the destination is also, because sometimes it's changing around, but the path, okay, so that you can adjust your path accordingly. But if you find the path to walk on, and and if you're on that path, so that's good enough, even if you're pushing a little few inches every day, or even if you're not, but then you, at least you have a path. You're not, it's not like some random kind of actions that you take. So yeah, I don't know whether that made much sense, but yeah.
No, I think that's thanks for keeping it real. I think that's a good enough message, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of people who are listening and who are probably thinking about something similar. And the power of collective leadership, or just power of minds coming together, is strong enough power. And thanks for I think sharing that. I think as of now, I'm kind of done with the questions. Like I'm not done with the conversation, of course. I think I could
Mm.
go on and on. But for the podcast, I think unless you want to add something and finish off with something, I want to thank you for your time.
Mm.
And
Yeah. So, Tarun, another thing, a little bit about like the small cities, the big cities, like the big, at least for us, like in Gangtok, like the big companies coming in, and like us, like somehow getting lost over here, is also that what's I about to say? I forgot. Like, so we feel like somehow not okay. We are things are going to change, things are going to move, things are going to kind of like whatever, develop in whatever way, but at the same time, we should recognize the good things that we have in our own culture, or in our own society, or in our value systems, and not lose that while developing. So there is a process of continuity and change. It's not like throw the baby out with the bathwater and okay, this is no good and okay, bring something else in. You can be picky and choosy about like what you want, and at the same time, but not lose the good things that you have. Like and. Because those are intangible, like priceless kind of things, and my gut feeling is once it's gone, like it's very difficult to like for it to come back. So we shouldn't like lose those things that we as we move ahead.
Thanks so much. I think I will share with you a writing contest that we just finished last year, and which was and we just made a calendar out of it, which is called Legacy of Hope, which tries to capture some of these these unique essences. Like, and we get entries from all across India, and we had like some 150 entries from 150 different cities talking about such aspirations and wanting to preserve this unique essence
Mm.
of their
Nice,
city
nice.
while trying to balance this uh, modernity that is enveloping us. So I will share that with you. You might find it interesting to read some of the winning entries. But thanks, that's such a powerful message to end with. And I'm so glad that we were able to make this conversation happen, to hear from you, from learn about your perspectives, and to share. And we to play our role in propagating, in taking forward some of these really strong ideas that you have, and which are
And so I also I feel like serendipity, like somehow I didn't know this group existed, and when I saw some of the stuff that you guys were doing, and the immediate comprehension, like sometimes there's an ease in communication, and you just immediately like before saying it only you already know what I'm talking about. So that's really like wonderful to have that communication. I'm so glad like we hooked up. So, and I'm
my
so happy something like Nagrika exists and doing the good work that you all are doing. So this is like fantastic stuff. Like congratulations.
thanks so much.